The galactic arena was alive with sound. It was not the sound of battle or glory, but the loud mocking laughter of countless alien voices echoing across the giant chamber. Leaders, commanders, and citizens from powerful empires had gathered here to witness a display that had already become a cruel tradition. Once again, Earth's ships would be shown to the galaxy. And once again, the crowd expected nothing more than a comedy act, a reminder of how weak and backward humans were in the grand stage of the stars. On giant holoscreens, the same clips played over and over, Earth's first attempts at space travel. They showed slow rockets crawling out of orbit, clumsy metal cylinders breaking apart in tests, and early starships that could barely travel between two planets without shaking themselves to pieces. The aliens laughed louder each time, calling them floating coffins, toy boxes, and the cruelest of names, the children of the stars who never grew up. The arena announcers joined in the mocking tone. They spoke of humans as reckless explorers with no sense of scale, dreamers who thought they could walk among giants. The crowd roared in agreement, repeating the same jokes that had been told for decades. In their eyes, Earth was not a rival, not a threat, but only a reminder that some species were born to crawl while others were born to rule. But then, the laughter dimmed slightly as a new figure appeared in the arena. On the main holoscreen, one small human ship entered the battlefield. The crowd erupted again, louder than before. To them, it was the start of another humiliation. "Look at it," shouted an alien warlord, a rust bucket held together with tape and prayers. "It will fall apart before the first shot is fired," another voice jeered. The laughter returned like thunder, shaking the hall. The ship itself looked ordinary, almost outdated compared to the sleek alien cruisers that surrounded it. Its hull was dark, worn, and unpolished. No shining armor, no terrifying weapons on display. It looked small, fragile, and almost laughable. The alien fleet raised their weapons, confident that this would end in seconds. But inside the ship, the human crew did not react to the laughter or the insults. They did not fire back with words. They simply stood at their stations in silence, their faces calm and their eyes steady. At the center of the bridge, the captain leaned forward in his chair, his hands resting quietly on the controls, his eyes as cold as the deep void outside. The countdown to battle began. Alien commanders grinned, preparing for a swift victory. But then, something strange happened. The human ship flickered once, and in the blink of an eye, it vanished from every scanner in the arena. There was no jump signal, no warp trace, no sound of engines. It had not moved through hyperspace, nor bent through wormholes. It had simply disappeared. Shock fell over the alien fleets. "Impossible," one commander shouted. "Find them." But before the order finished, the human ship reappeared behind the largest alien cruiser, its cannons glowing. In one precise strike, the human weapons burned through the alien shields as if they were paper, tearing a hole through the massive ship. Flames burst out into the void, and the alien fleet froze in silence. Confusion spread. How could a small human ship move faster than hyperspace? How could their crude weapons pierce the strongest shields? The truth was revealed only when the human admiral activated his channel and spoke to his own crew, words carried across open frequencies. "Activate the Starforge drive." The ship glowed faintly, bending light and shadow around it, bending even the pull of gravity itself. The Starforge drive was not hyperspace, not warp, but something new, something terrifying. It allowed ships to move between points without crossing the space in between, to strike from nowhere, and to vanish before anyone could react. It was not power in numbers, but power in precision. The battle turned. Again and again, the human ship vanished and reappeared, each time behind another alien cruiser, each time with a single devastating strike. Alien ships that once mocked Earth burned bright against the dark stars, their wreckage scattering like glowing ashes. The arena fell silent. The crowd that once roared with laughter now watched in disbelief as their fleets, mighty and proud, were destroyed by the very species they had called weak. The humans were not fighting like children anymore. They were striking with the calm precision of hunters. Every new attack spread more fear. The laughter of aliens had died. Their voices, once mocking, were now filled with fear and disbelief. Commanders shouted desperate orders, But no strategy worked against an enemy that could appear and vanish at will. One by one, their ships turned into fire, stars lighting the void with wreckage and flames. And still, the human ship moved forward, unbroken, unstoppable. At last, silence fell. The surviving alien fleets pulled back, retreating from the battlefield. None dared to remain. The arena that once rang with laughter was now filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the voice of the human admiral. His words came through every channel, reaching every ship, every world, every corner of the galaxy that was watching. His voice was calm, steady, and cold. You mocked us when we learned. You mocked us when we crawled. You called us children who would never grow. But now watch how humans burn stars. The words echoed across the stars like a warning and a promise. The screen faded slowly, showing alien fleets in retreat, their pride broken, their arrogance shattered. The galaxy had laughed at Earth for generations. But after this day, no one would laugh again. Humanity had risen, and the stars themselves burned in their name. The galaxy was not quiet for long. News of Earth's sudden victory spread like wildfire across star systems. Every empire, every trading hub, every pirate den repeated the same impossible story. One small human ship had destroyed a fleet many times its size. Entire channels replayed the same footage, the sudden vanish from scanners, the reappearance behind enemy lines, the blinding fire of shields torn apart. Some called it a trick, others called it a lie, but the truth had already burned into the minds of billions. Humanity had something new, something dangerous, and the galaxy could not ignore it. Alien rulers gathered in secret councils. For generations, they had treated humans as background noise, a species of dreamers who dared too much and achieved too little. Now, they faced a new reality. If Earth had built one Starforge drive, how many more could they build? If one ship could destroy a fleet, what would happen if 100 such ships rose from the shadows? Fear crept into the halls of power. Some empires spoke of immediate war to crush Earth before it grew stronger. Others whispered of alliances, desperate to pull humanity into their orbit before someone else did. But under every debate, there was the same question no one wanted to say aloud: had they waited too long? On Earth, things were different. The people had watched the same battle on their own screens, and for the first time in history, the world felt united. The old divisions of nations and politics seemed smaller compared to what had just happened. Humanity had stood against giants and won. Crowds filled the streets, cheering the names of the crews and captains who had fought in the arena. But behind the celebration, human leaders met in quiet rooms. They knew what was coming. Victory had not brought safety. It had brought attention. And in the galaxy, attention could be deadly. The Starforge project itself had been born from desperation. For years, Earth scientists had worked in secret, far from alien eyes, after being laughed out of research councils and denied access to shared technology. What the galaxy called impossible, humans decided to attempt anyway. They bent light, twisted gravity, and found a way to step between points without crossing the space between them. The cost had been high, the risks endless, but the result had given Earth its first real weapon against mockery and invasion. Yet even as the people celebrated, the scientists warned the leaders: the drive was powerful but not perfect. The strain it placed on ships was immense. Use it too much, and even the strongest hull would crack apart. Humanity had shown its teeth, but those teeth were not yet unbreakable. The alien empires did not wait long. The first reaction came from the Zorath Dominion, a vast reptilian empire known for its pride and cruelty. Their leaders had been among the loudest voices mocking Earth for decades. Now, their fleets were the first to fall to human fire. Humiliation burned deeper than fear. They broadcast threats across the stars, vowing to erase Earth from existence. Armies gathered, fleets assembled, and war drums echoed through their colonies. To the Dominion, there could be no peace. Their pride demanded blood. But even as they prepared for war, something else stirred. Smaller species, long bullied by the great empires, began to look at Earth with new eyes. For centuries, they too had been mocked, controlled, or ignored. Now they whispered to one another: if humans could rise, maybe they could too. Secret envoys reached Earth, offering friendship, trade, and even military support. In hidden meetings, they begged humanity not to stand alone. Some hoped Earth would lead them. Others simply wanted a chance to escape the chains of larger empires. Meanwhile, in the deep black of space, human fleets trained in silence. New ships were being built, stronger and faster than before, each one carrying a Starforge drive. Engineers worked day and night, pushing the limits of what their fragile world could produce. The admiral who had spoken in the arena now carried the weight of an entire species on his shoulders. He was praised as a hero on Earth but hunted as a threat by alien governments. His words, "Watch how humans burn stars," were repeated across the galaxy like a prophecy. And for some, it was a prophecy they intended to prevent at all costs. The tension reached a breaking point when the first alien retaliation came. A Dominion strike force slipped past human patrols and descended on a frontier colony. Their goal was not conquest but fear. They wanted to remind humanity of its place, to make an example. But when their ships dropped out of hyperspace, they did not find helpless settlers. They found waiting human warships, glowing faintly with red light. The trap was set. The battle was short and brutal. Human ships vanished and reappeared like shadows, striking from angles no alien could predict. The Dominion fleet burned, their screams lost in the silence of the void. For the second time, the galaxy watched in shock as humans turned laughter into fire. But this time, the message was different. This was not just defense. This was retaliation. When the last Dominion ship exploded into a storm of wreckage, the human admiral opened a channel once again, his voice carried to every listening ear in the galaxy. "You came to remind us of our place," he said. "We have learned it well. Our place is not beneath you. Our place is beside the stars, and we will not crawl again." The words sent ripples through the galaxy. Some species cheered in secret. Others clenched their fists in anger. But all understood one thing: Earth was no longer the weak child at the edge of the stars. Humanity had stepped into the fire. And now, no empire could predict what would burn next. The galaxy was now holding its breath. Humanity had fought twice, and twice it had won. The first victory was shocking. The second was undeniable. And now the question whispered across the stars was no longer if Earth could fight but how far Earth was willing to go. Empires that had laughed at humans only months ago now watched them with wary eyes. Councils that once refused to seat Earth now debated how to contain them. Some wanted peace, others demanded war, but no one could ignore the rising fire anymore. On Earth, the celebrations had ended. The people still carried pride, but the leaders knew the truth: they were walking into a storm. Humanity had revealed its weapon too soon. The Starforge drive was powerful but fragile. It could not be mass-produced at the speed the galaxy imagined. And every battle risked revealing more of its secrets to alien spies. Yet hiding was no longer possible. The galaxy had seen their light. Now the galaxy would come for it. In secret rooms, Earth's leaders debated the next step. The admiral who had led both victories stood at the center of every discussion. His calm voice carried weight. "We cannot win alone," he said. "We do not have the fleets, the resources, or the time. But the empires are divided. Some fear us. Some hate us. Some admire us. That division is our only weapon. We must use it." The plan was dangerous but simple: build alliances in the shadows. Reach out not to the strong but to the weak. Offer them hope where the empires gave them chains. The first to answer were the Vayari, a small aquatic species who lived on scattered ocean worlds. For centuries, their planets had been taxed and drained by the Dominion. Their ships were fragile, their technology limited. But they knew the stars, and they hated their masters. When Earth reached out, the Vayari answered. In hidden bases, their envoys spoke: "You gave the galaxy fire. Give us a spark, and we will follow." Next came the Hask, a nomadic people long driven from their homeworld by stronger empires. They had no planet, only fleets of wandering ships, always hunted, always forced to serve. But when they saw human ships cut through Dominion steel, they saw more than power. They saw a chance to end their endless flight. They swore loyalty not in words but in ships, offering their entire wandering armada to Earth's cause. Slowly, quietly, humanity built something new, not an empire but a coalition. Species once mocked or ignored found a place beside humans. They shared knowledge, resources, and soldiers. They swore secrecy, knowing the great powers would crush them if discovered. Yet with every passing day, the coalition grew. And with it grew the fear of those who ruled the galaxy. The Dominion, furious over its defeats, was the first to strike back. They declared open war, calling for every empire to join them in crushing Earth. But not all answered. Some remembered how quickly human fire had burned. Some feared the Starforged drive more than they feared the Dominion. Others, bound by pride, hesitated, unwilling to risk their fleets on a war that might end in humiliation. The unity the Dominion demanded never came. And that division gave humanity time. But time was not enough. Even with allies, even with secrecy, Earth knew it could not fight forever. The Starforged drive was still their only true weapon, and it was not indestructible. Every test strained its limits. Every battle risked failure. The scientists begged for more time to refine it, but war did not wait for research. The Admiral understood this. He ordered his crews to fight as if every battle might be the last, to strike with precision, to vanish before the enemy could recover. He knew humanity could not afford mistakes. Then came the event that changed everything. A fleet of Dominion warships gathered at the edge of neutral space, planning to cut off one of Earth's new allies. The coalition decided to strike first. For the first time, it was not only human ships entering battle. Vayari submarines modified for space joined the fleet. Hask raiders, fast and agile, flew beside human cruisers. Together, they moved as one. The galaxy watched, curious and uncertain, as the weak dared to stand beside the weak. The battle was chaos. Dominion warships outnumbered them 3-1. Yet the coalition fought with a fury no one expected. Human ships vanished and reappeared, tearing holes in the enemy line. Hask raiders swarmed like shadows, striking fast and vanishing before fire could touch them. Vayari ships released clouds of reflective drones, confusing scanners and turning space into a storm of false images. For hours, the battle raged. And when the smoke cleared, the Dominion had lost again. Not to humans alone, but to humans and their allies together. The message spread across the galaxy like fire. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. Humanity was building something greater. The empires had mocked Earth as children of the stars. But now, those children were leading others, forging bonds the galaxy had never seen. The laughter was gone, replaced by fear. And in the shadows, whispers began. If Earth could unite the weak, could they one day challenge the strong? The Admiral stood on the bridge after the battle, his eyes fixed on the stars. Around him, human and alien crews celebrated together. But his voice was quiet when he spoke to his officers. "We have won a battle," he said. "But the galaxy will not forgive this. They will not allow us to build in peace. From this moment, every empire will watch us. Some will strike. Some will betray. Some will beg for peace. But know this, we are no longer crawling. We are no longer mocked. From here on, every step we take will shake the stars." And as the coalition fleet drifted in the silent void, its ships glowing faintly against the darkness, the galaxy trembled. The laughter of the past was gone. A new sound was rising, one of fear, of hope, and of the fire that humans carried into the night. The galaxy was no longer divided by laughter. It was divided by fear. The coalition's latest victory had shocked even those who doubted the first reports. Humans had not only fought and won again, they had led others to victory. That truth was more dangerous than any single weapon. A weapon could be destroyed. But an idea, once planted, was harder to kill. The idea of unity under Earth was spreading, and the great empires knew it. In the golden towers of the Archon Imperium, counselors argued for hours. The Imperium had ruled through order and discipline for centuries. They saw humans not as rivals but as a disease, a fire that could spread to their own subjects. "If the weak believe they can rise," one counselor warned, "our throne will shake." In the dark halls of the Sci-Fi Collective, another empire debated. The Seraphai thrived on trade and manipulation. To them, humans were not only dangerous but unpredictable. They do not follow our rules, hissed a Seraphai elder. If they grow, we cannot control them. Better to end them now. And in the war chambers of the Dominion, rage still burned. Their fleets had fallen again. Their pride was shattered, but their hatred remained. To them, there could be no debate. Earth must be destroyed, root and branch, no matter the cost. One by one, the great empires came to the same conclusion: if Earth and its coalition were allowed to grow, they would become unstoppable. For the first time in centuries, rivals who despised one another agreed on a single goal. Quietly, secretly, they began to form an alliance. Not of friendship, but of survival. Their enemy was not a single planet. Their enemy was the future that planet promised. On Earth, the signs of danger were clear. Intelligence networks whispered of secret meetings, unusual fleet movements, and sudden silence from certain trade partners. The admiral stood in the war room with his commanders, maps of the galaxy glowing before them. "They are moving," he said. "Not separately. Together. They fear us enough to put aside their hatred. That alone should tell us how dangerous this moment is." His officers looked grim. Humanity had fought 2 battles and won. But now the galaxy itself was preparing for war. The coalition felt the pressure too. The Vayari envoys sent desperate warnings. Their colonies reported strange ships lurking near the edges of their systems. The Hask nomads spoke of being hunted again, their fleets chased by patrols far stronger than before. Fear spread among the smaller allies. Some began to question if following humanity had been a mistake. The admiral saw the doubt and answered it not with promises but with truth. "The empires will come for us whether you stand with us or not," he said. "They fear your freedom as much as they fear our fire. You can face them alone or face them with us. But make no mistake, they are already marching." The choice was bitter but clear. The coalition tightened. More species, once silent, began to drift toward Earth's side. A group of exiles from the Orion Syndicate offered stealth technology in exchange for protection. A farming people from the Rim sent food and supplies, saying only, "You gave us hope. This is all we have to give in return." Piece by piece, the coalition grew stronger, not through power but through trust. Yet even trust would be tested. The first strike came without warning. A combined fleet of Dominion and Seraphai ships descended on a human research station orbiting a gas giant. The attack was brutal. Dozens of scientists were killed before the alarm reached Earth. When human warships arrived, they found only wreckage and silence. The message was clear: the galaxy had stopped laughing. Now it was ready to kill. The retaliation was swift. Human ships, joined by Hask raiders, tracked the attackers to a hidden supply base. They struck with fury, Starforge drives tearing the enemy formation apart. The base burned, and with it burned hundreds of enemy ships. But even in victory, the humans knew the truth. That fleet had been only a fragment. The empires had countless more. The war had truly begun. Across the stars, propaganda spread. Alien broadcasts painted humans as monsters, reckless destroyers who burned not only ships but entire futures. They showed edited images of battles, twisting them into stories of cruelty. The coalition was called a rebellion, a plague, a danger to all. And yet, in the shadows, others still watched with hope. For every empire voice calling humans destroyers, a whisper answered, "Or perhaps they are liberators." The admiral understood the danger of stories as much as battles. He ordered Earth's own broadcasts to carry a different message. Not one of conquest, but of survival. Not of domination, but of choice. "We are not here to rule you," he said in a speech carried across neutral channels. "We are here because we will not crawl again. Stand with us, and you will not crawl either." The words struck deep. They could not silence the Empire propaganda, but they gave strength to those who still doubted. And so the galaxy entered a new phase. No longer laughter, no longer whispers, but open preparation for war. Fleets gathered in secret, supply lines stretched thin, and spies moved faster than ever before. Humanity stood at the center of it all, its coalition fragile yet growing. The admiral knew the storm was only beginning. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the stars burning red in the distance, and spoke to his crew. "The galaxy comes for us," he said. "But remember this. They come because they fear us. And fear means we have already won half the war." Yet even as his words spread courage, he felt the weight of truth. The empires had united. Their fleets were vast, their resources endless. Humanity had fire, but fire alone might not be enough. Somewhere, beyond the light of the stars, the greatest battle of all was already waiting. The storm finally came. For months, the galaxy had whispered of secret alliances, of fleets gathering in hidden docks, of empires once divided now speaking with one voice. And then the whispers ended. On the outer edges of human space, thousands of ships appeared, their banners carrying the symbols of the Dominion, the Sci-Fi Collective, the Archon Imperium, and half a dozen other powers. It was the largest fleet assembled in centuries. They did not come for negotiation. They came for annihilation. On Earth, alarms echoed through the command halls. The admiral stood before the holographic map, watching red markers spread like fire across the edge of the Sol sector. The numbers were overwhelming. Against humanity's growing coalition, the enemy had more than 10 times the ships, more than 20 times the firepower, and resources that could last years. The admiral did not flinch. His voice was steady when he spoke. "They have numbers," he said. "But numbers mean nothing if they cannot hit us. This war will not be decided by size. It will be decided by speed, by precision, and by will." The coalition gathered what strength it had. Human fleets were joined by Vayari cruisers, their ocean-inspired hulls bristling with new weapons. The Harsk Armada, once hunted, now stood ready, their raiders darting in tight formations. Smaller allies sent what they could: drones, food, repair crews, even unarmed ships carrying supplies. It was not enough to match the enemy, but it was enough to fight. And in that moment, fighting was all they needed. The first great battle took place near the asteroid fields of Titan's Gate, a vital passage into human space. The enemy fleet entered in full force, confident of crushing resistance in hours. Yet what they found was not a weak defense but a trap. Human ships flickered in and out of existence, their starforged drives bending light and gravity. Harsk raiders swarmed like shadows, cutting through enemy wings. Vayari ships released shimmering barriers of reflective drones, scattering scanners into chaos. The empires roared with fury, but their formations collapsed under precision strikes. For hours, space itself seemed to burn. Explosions lit the void, wreckage spun through the darkness, and the red glow of the starforged drives turned the battlefield into a storm of fire. The coalition fought not with numbers but with speed, each ship striking where it mattered most. And when the smoke cleared, Titan's Gate still stood. Humanity had not been crushed. Humanity had survived. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Dozens of coalition ships were gone. The Vayari lost half their fleet. The Harsk Armada, though fierce, had taken heavy damage. On Earth, the people cheered when they heard of the victory, but in the war room, the admiral saw only the price. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They will come again. Stronger. We cannot win by defense alone." The empires, enraged by the defeat, launched a second wave. This time they struck at 3 points at once, hoping to stretch the coalition thin. Colonies on the rim were burned. Supply stations were destroyed. Thousands of civilians were lost. The war was no longer distant, it was at humanity's doorstep. The broadcasts of the empires grew louder, calling humans destroyers, calling their allies traitors. The galaxy itself seemed to turn red with hate. Yet even in the darkness, light appeared. The smaller species, those who had once hesitated, now saw the truth. The empires were not fighting only humans. They were fighting the very idea of freedom. More envoys arrived at Earth, offering fleets, weapons, and soldiers. The coalition grew again, not because of power, but because of belief. They fought not only to survive but to prove that no empire, no matter how ancient, had the right to chain others. The admiral planned the next move carefully. "We cannot let them choose the battlefield," he said. "We must strike where they are weakest. Not their fleets, but their pride. His eyes fell on a single target, the Dominion's forward command base, hidden in a nebula at the edge of contested space. If they could destroy it, the Empires would lose coordination. The risk was enormous. The reward was survival. The plan was set. A fleet of human and coalition ships entered the nebula in silence, their Starforge drives cloaking them from scanners. Inside the swirling gas clouds, visibility was nearly zero. Enemy ships prowled the darkness, their sensors searching. The humans moved like ghosts, vanishing and reappearing, striking quickly, leaving wreckage drifting in the fog. The battle was chaos, but the coalition pressed forward until at last the command base came into view. It was a giant fortress, bristling with weapons, shielded by layers of armor. But against the precision of the Starforge drives, even giants could fall. The coalition fleet poured fire into its heart. Explosions ripped through the fortress, tearing it apart piece by piece. Enemy reinforcements arrived, but it was too late. The base erupted into a blazing fireball, its destruction shaking the entire sector. The galaxy felt the shock. For the third time, the Empires had promised to crush Earth. For the third time, Earth had struck back. And this time, the strike had not only saved the coalition, it had humiliated the great powers before the eyes of billions. The laughter of the past was gone. The voices of propaganda grew desperate. And whispers spread again, whispers the Empires feared. If Earth could destroy one fortress, could they destroy more? The Admiral stood on his bridge, his eyes on the burning remains of the base. His crew waited for his words, and when he spoke, his voice was calm but fierce. "They came to erase us," he said. "But we are still here. And as long as we are here, the stars will burn with us." And across the galaxy, as news of the victory spread, the weak began to rise a little taller. The strong began to doubt their strength. And the great empires, for the first time in centuries, began to fear not just defeat but change. The galaxy could not hide its fear any longer. Humanity and its coalition had stood against impossible odds and lived. The destruction of the Dominion's command base had shaken the balance of power in ways no one could deny. Across the stars, subjects of the great empires whispered of freedom, while rulers whispered of revenge. For the united empires, victory was no longer a matter of pride. It was survival. If Earth was not broken soon, their reign over the galaxy would crumble piece by piece. So the empires prepared something new. Not more fleets. Not more armies. They prepared weapons the galaxy had not seen in centuries, ancient, forbidden creations buried deep within their arsenals. The Seraphai revived the Eclipse cannon, a weapon that could drain energy from an entire star and fire it as a single beam. The Archon Imperium unlocked the Titan dreadnoughts, ships so massive they carried entire cities within their hulls. And the Dominion revealed its darkest secret, the World Breakers, engines capable of tearing planets apart from orbit. Together, these weapons formed a storm no coalition could match. The first test was brutal. On the outer rim, a small human colony named Haven was chosen as the target. The Dominion fleet arrived, deploying a worldbreaker above the planet. The settlers sent desperate messages, begging for help. Coalition ships raced to respond, but they were too late. From orbit, the weapon activated, ripping the planet's crust open with unstoppable force. The colony vanished in fire. Millions died in seconds. The message was clear. The empires were finished with warnings. They were ready to burn the galaxy itself to destroy Earth. On Earth, grief turned to rage. The people demanded action. Crowds filled the streets, calling for vengeance, calling for justice. But in the war room, the Admiral faced a grim reality. "We cannot fight these weapons head-on," he said. "If we try, we will lose everything. We must outthink them. We must make their strength into their weakness." His commanders looked uncertain. Against fleets of Titan dreadnoughts and Eclipse cannons, what plan could succeed? But the Admiral's eyes were cold. "We don't need to destroy their weapons," he said. "We need to destroy their trust in them." The plan that followed was dangerous. Intelligence reports revealed the empires were moving their superweapons toward a single staging ground near the star system Kerion. There, they would gather before striking directly at Earth. The admiral proposed something unthinkable: strike first. Not with fleets, not with numbers, but with a surgical attack. Slip into the system unseen. Target the supply lines, the command relays, and the fragile cores that powered the weapons. Break the weapons before they could be unleashed. The coalition debated fiercely. Some allies called it madness. Others argued it was their only chance. In the end, desperation made the choice for them. A fleet of the fastest ships was chosen, led by the admiral's own flagship. They entered Carrion in silence, hidden by starforge drives, moving between gravity shadows like ghosts. The enemy had thousands of ships guarding the system. But the coalition did not come to fight all of them. They came to strike where no one expected. The mission began with precision. Hask raiders swarmed the supply convoys, destroying fuel depots before the alarm could spread. Vayari cruisers released waves of reflective drones, creating false signatures that pulled enemy fleets away from the real targets. Human ships moved deep into the heart of the system, their weapons locked on the superweapons themselves. The first strike was against a Titan dreadnought. A volley of human fire tore into its shield generator, and seconds later the ship exploded, taking its escort fleet with it. The galaxy's strongest ship had fallen before it even joined battle. But then the Eclipse cannon activated. A beam of pure starfire ripped through the void, grazing the coalition fleet. Entire squadrons vanished in an instant. The admiral's ship shook under the shockwave, alarms blaring. "We cannot take another hit like that," his officers warned. But retreat was not an option. With calm resolve, the admiral ordered his fleet forward. They targeted the cannon's focusing array, knowing it could not fire without it. Human ships vanished and reappeared, dodging enemy fire, until finally one ship rammed itself directly into the cannon's core. The explosion lit the system like a second sun. The Eclipse cannon was gone. The battle was not yet over. The Worldbreaker engines were still active, and one had already locked its sights on a coalition-held planet nearby. The admiral knew they had minutes, not hours. With a fierce voice, he gave the order: "All ships, focus fire on the Worldbreaker. It dies here, or we do." The fleet obeyed, pouring every weapon they had into the monstrous machine. Enemy fire rained down, allies fell one by one, but the humans pressed forward. Finally, the Worldbreaker cracked apart, its core imploding in a storm of fire that consumed half the battlefield. When the smoke cleared, silence fell. The coalition fleet was shattered, half its ships gone. But the superweapons, the pride of the empires, were no more. Carrion had burned, but Earth still stood. And the message was clear. Humanity could bleed, humanity could suffer, but humanity would not be broken. The empires reeled from the loss. For the first time, their people questioned their strength. If even their greatest weapons could fall, what hope remained? Fear turned inward. Whispers of rebellion grew louder. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, more species looked to Earth not with mockery, not with doubt, but with belief. On his flagship, the admiral stood before his weary crew. The stars outside glowed red with wreckage. His voice was tired but unyielding. "They tried to break us with fear," he said. "But fear is not our end. It is our fire. As long as we stand together, even their gods of war will fall." And across the galaxy, that fire spread. The laughter of the past was gone. The empires had tried their strongest blow. And still, humanity remained. The war was over, but peace was not simple. The galaxy lay in ruins. The empires that had ruled for centuries were broken, their fleets shattered, their thrones empty. On dozens of worlds, rebellions had thrown chains into the fire, but with freedom came chaos. Old enemies returned. New factions rose. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the unlikely power that had survived when no one believed it could. On Earth, the celebrations lasted for weeks. Cities lit the night with firework storms. People cheered the return of their fleets, even as the names of the fallen were read aloud in endless lists. The admiral was hailed as the man who broke the chains of the galaxy. Statues were built, songs were written, and broadcasts called him the savior of a new age. But behind the cheers, the admiral remained silent. He had seen the cost. He knew victory was not the end. It was only the beginning. The coalition gathered again, this time not for war but for rebuilding. On a vast station orbiting Earth, leaders from dozens of species met in open council. There were no thrones, no crowns, no empires, only voices. Each spoke of the ruins left behind, of fleets burned, of planets scarred. Some demanded justice, others called for mercy, and many feared what would happen if humanity claimed the throne of power for itself. The admiral rose before them. His voice was calm, but it carried through the chamber. We did not fight this war to replace one empire with another. Humanity will not rule the galaxy. We will help rebuild it. Together. For a moment, silence followed. And then, one by one, the council agreed. A fragile alliance was born, not an empire but a union of free worlds. For the first time in history, the galaxy had a choice. But shadows remained. The empires had fallen, yet not all their lords were dead. Scattered warlords still commanded fleets. Ancient weapons lay buried on forgotten worlds. And beyond known space, signals whispered of forces untouched by the war, powers watching, waiting, measuring humanity's rise. The fire of freedom had spread, but it had also drawn attention. The galaxy was watching Earth now with new eyes. On the rim, rumors grew of ships that moved faster than even the Starforge drives. Traders spoke of ruins glowing with strange energy. Miners vanished near black holes where no empire had dared to go. Some called it superstition. Others whispered of a deeper truth, that the war with the empires had been only the surface of a greater storm. The admiral listened in silence as reports came in. He knew peace was fragile. He knew humanity's rise had painted a target on their backs. And yet, he felt no fear. The war had proven one truth: humanity could endure anything. The galaxy might laugh again. It might threaten again. But Earth had already shown its answer. In the years that followed, humanity became not conquerors but builders. They shared the secrets of the Starforge drive, giving smaller worlds the power to travel without chains. They sent fleets not to enslave but to defend. They built schools where once there had been prisons. And slowly, cautiously, the galaxy began to heal. Yet the admiral never retired. Even as new leaders rose, even as peace treaties were signed, he kept his eyes on the stars. He knew war would come again. Not tomorrow, not next year, but someday. And when it did, the galaxy would test humanity once more. One night, as he stood alone on his flagship, watching the stars burn in silence, a message reached him. It was old, encrypted in a language no empire had used for millennia. The words were few but chilling: "We saw your fire. We are coming." The admiral closed his eyes. The war with the empires had ended. But a new chapter was beginning. Humanity was no longer the child of the stars. Humanity was the fire in the dark. And the dark was stirring. The story of Earth was not finished. It had only just begun.